All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to not another episode of the Fortress of our regular podcast, but sort of a spin-off slash side podcast thing we're doing here, which right now I guess the title is we're just gonna go with Fortress Finest is what I came up with, which is wordplay off of World's Finest, which was the Superman Batman comic. I was trying to think of a name that was just two people.
We don't
Fortress
want to associate
Finest.
it with
It
anything
really,
DC.
really rolls off the tongue.
We don't gotta associate it with Batman and Superman.
Yeah, because listeners, we're doing something a little special here where you'll still get your regular podcast. But for now, Devin came up with a good idea that we're gonna do because of the Rings of Power just came out.
Oh, hey! Don't give me the credit. Don't give me credit. This was your idea, and you know what? I'm into it because
No, this is 100% your idea.
it was my idea.
Yeah, you came up to me. You're like, Oscar, we could do the thing when the Rings of Power comes out.
Oh,
I
well,
was like, I'm into it. Yeah.
I'm a smart guy then because damn it, I've been waiting all day to talk to you about this because man, I got some stuff to say.
Oh man. Yeah, me too. We'll get into it. But yeah, so listeners, I don't know if we're gonna be doing this every week. We're definitely gonna do this, obviously, and you'll get this hopefully, probably you're listening to it now on Sunday if it came out. And yeah, so we'll see if we get this every week. We'll at least try to get to a mid-season one as well when the past episode 4 of this show comes out. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously you'll get your full Fortress of episode on the rest of the show when it ends in 8 to 9 weeks, whenever that ends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so just keep an eye out and also look to the socials. We'll let you guys know there as well if a new one's coming out and dropping. So for that, Devin, before we hop in, I think we'll say just spoilers straight out the top, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to give overall thoughts of
No, I
before
think spoiler
spoilers?
alert immediately because there's
Yeah,
too much to get into right off the bat.
right. So spoilers right off the top. I will say let's try to just stick to the show spoilers.
Yeah.
Let's not
Ooh.
if we want, maybe at the end we'll do some slight book spoilers, but me personally as well, you know more book stuff than I do.
Yeah.
I don't want any of this book stuff spoiled for me.
Well.
Because I know there's a lot of stuff that could be spoiled. So try to keep those in check, Devin. Don't spoil the show for people.
Okay.
Don't do it.
I'll try. I'll try not to. But there's some things where you kind of know where it's gonna go.
Right. So yeah, we're just gonna say spoilers for the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. We
Listen,
won't probably
at this
dive
point,
into them that much anyways.
yeah. At this point, you need to have seen it, I guess.
Yeah, just beware. Check the show notes, but we'll try to keep them condensed and concise for you all listening because we know that there are a lot of newcomers to the
Right.
show. So
I guess there may be
we'll
people
do our
like
best.
Brian out there that haven't seen it at all, and are just going to be, enraptured by it and just totally 100% fans after they see it. So we don't really for them,
Exactly.
right?
So we don't want to ruin that for them.
We're going to convert Brian, everybody. Brian, if you're listening to this, you will be a fan by the end of Return of the King.
Whether you like it or not. And yeah, we'll try to keep book spoilers tagged down there. We'll do any future spoilers probably towards the end. But there will be probably some book spoiler lore spoilers that are before the show, so they're just like information lore dumps that are kind of the prologue of this show. So nothing that will spoil the future of the show. Just to let everyone know. And also just check for like any prediction spoilers. We don't know them. We're not going to spoil things that we already know. Obviously, these are predictions that we could have. And if you don't want to know those, skip ahead and check the time codes for those as well. With that, yes, listeners, we are covering The Rings of Power, the new Lord of the Rings show on Amazon. Episodes 1 and 2 premiered with double episodes. Episode 1, A Shadow of the Past, and Episode 2, Adrift. First off, right off the bat, that first episode.
Holy
God damn, this show looks good, dude.
shit. I wasn't ready.
Holy shit.
I was not ready. Like, yeah, it looks really good. It was like a movie. It was like, you could definitely see the $1 billion budget in basically every single shot
Right.
because it looked amazing. And there were so many shots. I absolutely loved the map effect they were doing to like kind of show you where the story was going in between cuts. Like
Yes.
just kind of showing you like, I
Love a
love
good map
that.
overview.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it kind of like helps you figure out like where stuff's going down. But yeah, man, good God, I was not ready for I thought that first scene, I thought that's like, oh, that's somewhere in Beleriand or like, that's like when Galadriel's young, I guess. But no, it's in Valinor. It's in freaking Valhalla. Like
We're fucking
and then
heaven.
he comes over the top of the hill and it's the two trees. the 2 trees that, like, of Valinor, and the music's going up, and, like, holy shit, I just
It's a
was not
beautiful shot.
expecting it at all. And then they go right into, like, the deep, deep lore of, like, the first age, like, Melkor, like, the first battles of the first age,
Morgoth,
which
everything.
yeah, like, that battle scene was pretty intense because like, it was cool that Fingon was so nice, and he's like, "Oh, I won't be around forever," and he looked kinda shook in that battle, like, he looked like he was not ready for,
Yeah,
action. But man, and then that shot of all the helmets, like, that's a throwback to the Battle of, like, Unnumbered Tears, which was a different battle, but visually, it's kinda what they were going for, where they just, like, the elves and men just got their asses completely kicked by Morgoth,
right.
but visually amazing.
I just love how the whole prologue is very much a Lord of the Rings thing from Fellowship with
Yeah.
it's still a Galadriel narration, it's still a
Yep.
big epic battle, like,
Yep.
I was like, "This is a way to start this," and
Yeah.
that's where the money showed the most for me is that opening section of where you see, like,
Ooh.
the fucking Nazgul dragons are taking
Ooh.
down eagles that are on fire and it
Yeah.
just looks everything, like, it
Oh my
look
god.
they are not in good shape.
No, I mean, that's the thing, like, I like that specifically that shot too because, like, it shows you that, like, they did not do great in the first stage, like, Morgoth's armies eventually conquered so, like, for anybody that doesn't know, like, in the first age, they were actually on a kingdom that was called or a land continent was called Beleriand, and it was actually to the west of, like, where the Shire is, and the
Right,
Valar literally like Morgoth conquers everybody. He conquers the men, the elves, and I think even Gondolin. Gondolin's like the last city that holds out because it's like kept secret for a long time. But eventually he finds Gondolin too, and it falls. And eventually the Valar come out of Valinor. They're like, all right, this guy's gone too far, and because Melkor is one of the Valar, like he's a god basically. And so the Valar come out of Valinor, and they literally have like a 60-year battle that makes that whole continent go into the ocean. Like it destroys this continent, and then Middle Earth is like what's left of like, or like it's like a new continent that like picks up. But that's like those kind of battles. That's like what was happening in the first age, like regularly. It's just these like epic, massive battles that make the stuff in Lord of the Rings a little bit smaller scale comparatively. But yeah, I was
right,
just
right.
glad they really hit the nail on the head for me. Like of just like showing how metal and like epic those big fights were. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like, I love the usage of when they first show Morgoth. Whether you don't see Morgoth, it's just that shadow of the outline of them
Hmm.
over the tree, and it's like, oh shit. You do see a little more of Sauron, obviously, because we have kind of an image of Sauron in our head later. But I
Yeah.
love that they just go straight into it with is like, here you
Yeah.
go. Sauron is our
And
big
like
mystery, big bad for this show.
exactly. And there are a lot of Rings fans that might be like, oh, like there was somebody bigger and badder than Sauron. Like we thought Sauron was like the main one. It's
Right?
like, nah, like Melkor was like he was just a servant of Melkor, which was like,
Yeah.
the
Sauron was
big
like
bad.
small potatoes compared to yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The first age is very depressing. And the second age should be very depressing. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's just I'm just really glad they did a really like that shot of like the elf dead in the water, like the elf's dead in the water as the fire goes up. Like
Yeah.
very metal stuff. Like that's like what the first, that original lore is pretty full of. So I just think they did a great
Right.
job with that prequel, setting the stage for the show for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, obviously, Galadriel's brother Finrod dies in that
Hmm.
trying to chase down Sauron. Sauron kills him, is what she says, and marks him with this marking, which we're not 100% sure about. It's similar. It sort of looks like an eye, but it's not quite an eye. So
Hmm.
we'll see what it ends up being if it's just a marking or what.
I think I
Um,
saw Nerd of the Ring. Nerd of the Ring had a theory that it was the map of Mordor because it's like sideways map of Mordor. So because it kind of lines up with the mountains. I don't know. I'm not really sure why that would be the case, but
right. Yeah, I heard that too.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, it'd be interesting that this whole time they think it's a marking when it's actually a map. It'd be an interesting little twist there. That'd be kind of cool. But
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, I just like, and we'll see how far it gets. I love how sprawling this show is so far. There's a lot of different plots that
Hmm.
we see throughout it. There's like 5 different storylines going, and I guess my biggest
Hmm.
question after all of these, which we'll get into, is how and when they're all going to tie together, type of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm curious about that too.
Because like the next big thing, the next big like storyline, because like you have the Galadriel storyline. She's chasing down Sauron, and just
Hmm.
because of her brother's death. Which I will say I like her, the actor. I think she's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm very intrigued by her.
Yeah, I saw somebody was today that I was listening to who said like, oh, like in 10 years' time, I might think like, oh yeah, Kate Blanchett also played Galadriel, and like this one's gonna be the main one. I'm like, no, I don't think I wouldn't go that far, but who knows? Like,
I don't know. I mean, this one's got the benefit of having way more time with the character. That like we like
true,
Cate Blanchett's got like what, like 30 minutes in all of the trilogy
yeah,
at maybe.
that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's a high bar to clear, but that's kind of the whole like first impression of these first two episodes is like it was a very very high bar to clear, and they basically did it. Like it's not quite Peter Jackson's trilogy, but it's like
Right.
it's like
It's
a very
different.
very
It's similar but different.
right, and it didn't it what it wasn't was a huge letdown. Like it could have been so bad, like
No.
it could have been complete train wreck. But and a lot of people online that I was reading comments of and sometimes getting mixing it up with them, where have already made up their mind that it was going to be a train wreck, right? But like it wasn't. Like at least for these first two episodes, they really have like steered the ship in a good place. And I think that a lot of credit
Yeah.
should go to the showrunners and the writers and everything else because they haven't Hollywoodified it really. They definitely did it in the spirit, I think, of the trilogy. I mean, to me, this is a better job than the Hobbit trilogy so far. I mean, of like sticking to like the spirit of Tolkien, you know?
I mean, I would say it's better just in the sense of the practical orcs that you see. And
Oh
that
yeah,
just
that
that's
too.
already a positive for it. So
Right. But I mean, for me, I'm definitely enjoying it more. I think it's closer to Jackson's original trilogy than The Hobbit was. And to be fair, The Hobbit was always going to be a little goofier, but um, there was
Right.
just some places where it fell so short. And this one, I just didn't feel out of the story at all. I think the acting was really good. Like everybody was just great. So I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to the rest of it too.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that's by the end that I'm interested in is there's some mysteries and some intrigue that I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm excited to see where this is going." And I'm trying my best. Like I don't want any of it spoiled. I kind of want to treat this like how I treated the original trilogy, whereas I
Right.
didn't know anything about it when I watched them, and so I kind of want to try to do that with this a bit.
Yeah. And I think they are going to change up a few things with the continuity of it looks like they're going to condense the timeline of the second age because there's a larger timeline for the second age that like there's a lot more stuff that happens, but a lot of the men characters and the Numenorians and stuff would be interchanged. But it looks like
Right.
from the names that I've been seeing of some of the cast members, it looks like they're going to move up some stuff that should happen way later, but um, which I'm not like too mad about as long as they do it. I think it would be cool if they did between seasons, they just like kind of recycled the human characters, and kind of played
It'd
with
be
that idea.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be cool
Yeah.
to show that,
It's
but I
kind
don't.
of like a
Yeah, I don't think
House
they're
of the
going to do that
Dragon
though.
similar esque type of thing. Yeah, that's going on
Right,
with that show.
right.
So
I doubt they'll do it,
it'll be
but
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of like men, I think the closest to the men storyline that we have right now is Arondir and Bronwyn and that
Hmm.
whole village. And he seems to
Hmm.
be the closest to the what the hell is going on evil section of
Yeah.
this right now.
Is this Gears of War 2? Like they're digging under cities to like steal people? Like,
That
like,
was in yeah, I mean, that shot of the eye just popping under the
oh,
floorboard, I was like I like you knew it was coming, but I was still just like, "Ah, god damn it, son of
yeah,
a bitch."
that was scary. That was real scary. That whole fight between the son and Bronwyn and that orc was pretty scary. He took a lot of punishment. Like he was stabbed many times,
Yeah.
and he kind of
I
just
was
kept going.
surprised by the strength of this, like, when he flung the
Hmm.
table, I was like, "Oh, these orcs are kinda strong."
Yeah, they're strong. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that whole shot was pretty cool. That whole little fight. Yeah, but Arondir, I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see him in action because I thought he would do a little bit more before he got because I knew that was coming.
I kn
Like I knew he was going to get grabbed up at some point from the trailer, but I was like, oh,
Right.
it's going to happen
He
now.
didn't do
Like
shit.
he hasn't done
Yeah.
anything yet.
He's
So
just creeping through holes the whole time.
yeah,
But that was very claustrophobic, him crawling through those
oof,
holes. I was like, "Oh, I hate this right now, bro."
yeah, wild move to just go crawl in a hole without any backup. I loved his
Right?
armor too. I loved their armor. I don't know. I'll have to look into like what their armor was
It was cool.
showing.
I did notice that I was like, does it have a belly button, like, indent in that in his armor? I'm pretty sure it does. I'm like, alright, okay."
It looks like armor
Thought
that
that was
like
funny.
Treebeard made for them or something.
Which you do get a little glimpse of what looks
Mhm.
to be Ents at one point in the end of the first
And an Ent
episode.
child, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was very cool, like, that dynamic of, like, that the elves are, like, definitely on top of Middle Earth right now, and they're, like, watching out for, like so basically the men of Bronwyn's village, I get they called it Tar Harad, so and it's in the south, so I'm thinking it's the people that eventually become, like, the Haradrim that are
Oh.
the Mumakil masters.
Yeah,
I
because that
think
was interesting that they talk about how there were some of those people, at least their blood relatives, were supporters of Morgoth, which I was like,
right,
"Oh, that's incredibly interesting that
right.
men supported this evil deity."
Yeah. Well, because in the battle of that, that where it sank into the sea and the Valar came, like the Numenorians were blessed by the Valar for siding with for siding with them. So
Right.
that's what makes the Numenorians kind of a step above, where they live longer and they're a little bit bigger and
Mhm.
stronger, stuff like that. Um, so that's so these other men, got kind of cursed, whatever else. But I mean, eventually, I don't know, but they're in the South. But I think eventually these are going to be the Easterlings or the Southrons that, eventually do side with Sauron again. So, um, but it is
Right.
kind of an
I mean,
interesting
yeah, we'll
dynamic.
get into that because I do have there are some interesting theories about some characters that could lead that way as well that we'll get into in a second.
Right.
Um, I guess as much as that's kind of all that Arondir and Bronwyn's story is so far in these 2 episodes. I like both of their characters. I'm interested to see how far it goes. It's clearly
Hmm.
slightly a Aragorn Arwen dynamic there a little
Yeah.
bit with the forbidden love, which I like how his friend is like, "What are you doing?" There have been 2 other times that this tried to happen, and they both ended tragically and in death.
Yeah. It's not going to go well, is it?
It's probably not.
But to be fair, I want it to end tragically. Like, I don't want it to be like a nice, happy love story. Like, it should be bad.
It probably right, because yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. But
Yeah.
that kid is definitely his kid, right? Like,
No, oh, I didn't think that.
oh, you didn't?
Oh,
I did.
we'll get into who his father it could be.
Okay.
One, I will say, let's just get Theo out of the way. Man, I'm gonna be. I don't want to hate this kid, but I have a feeling I'm gonna hate this kid.
I don't like him. Yeah, I don't like him. And then he just randomly has like Sauron's sword for some reason.
Which I'm like, if a sword starts stealing my blood, I'm not gonna take it with me.
Nah,
I'm leaving that in that fucking barn.
but he's definitely doing some like, like Gollum shit where he's like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. Like this is my precious
Right,
sword shard." But in the most fucked up way, it's like the shards of Narsil for Aragorn, except like the dark version of it. It's like,
right. Yeah, yeah,
some cool
yeah.
elves are going to reforge
What
this one
sword?
for you and make it badass, and you can fight ghosts. And this other one, it eats your blood and then like smokes a lot, and it's probably going to be evil. So
Right. Let's quickly talk about the Harfoots or the proto hobbits as it
yeah,
is. They're adorable. Um,
yeah,
I'm interested as how much their story comes into play. Clearly, they have a big element that by the end of the first episode of
oh yeah,
Superman visiting Middle
yeah.
Earth.
Friggin'
As I
Krypton,
thought when he first showed up, I was like, "Yo, I didn't know Superman was in this show."
Kal El coming down. Yeah, that shot of him in the meteor was so cool. Like when they're trying to wake him up. But yeah, I mean the Harfoots, I could have done without them, but I know that since it's Lord of the Rings, like they're gonna add in that cutesy element.
I feel like that's the only reason why I'm there because it wouldn't be Lord of the Rings without a Hobbit-esque character. I would imagine they were
Right,
in the
right.
process of thinking.
And maybe eventually this group, like now they're nomadic, but eventually maybe they'll find the Shire, and then this will be like the start of Hobbiton and the
Oh yeah,
Shire kind of thing. Because right now I don't know if any of that exists yet. So
I
maybe
don't think
they'll
so.
go there at some point. Yeah, maybe they'll do that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
who knows? I mean, that's kind of the fun thing is like right now there's these old kingdoms and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about I guess that the biggest piece with the Harfoots now.
Hmm.
Slight, not really spoilers because we're speculating, but uh, yeah, just in case. Who the fuck do you think the stranger is? Because I know I have my vote.
It's definitely one of the wizards, I think. But
That's yeah.
I really don't want it to be Gandalf. Just leave that, let that be, you know?
I would be okay if it was Gandalf, to be honest. I would be interested. It would make sense, but also it would be kind of interesting to see because one, I think they're playing around with us, obviously, because when the stranger first shows up, it's definitely very evil and ominous, and it looks like he's sitting in a ring of fire that looks like an eye.
Right, right. Yeah, the symbolism there
And
is kind of
also,
weird.
it talks to fireflies, which is very Gandalf talking to the moth, but then they all die. And so I'm like, this dude's like a weird balance of good and evil. So I don't know what they're
Yeah.
playing with, but I definitely was like, it could be one of the blue wizards is
Well,
my vote.
that's what my vote was, is because like you already have the established character of Saruman, Radagast, and Gandalf. And then in Hobbit, like this is how much they didn't know about the
Right.
two blues is because in the Hobbit, Gandalf's like, "Oh yeah, there's two blue ones, and I don't even know their names." It's like, what? Like, how do you not even know? There's five of you
Right.
like that are here, and you don't even remember their names. Like, so they could do. I mean, it's an open box. They could do whatever they want, if it's one of the blue wizards. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's my biggest guess. I don't think they would say that that's Sauron. I think it's too on the nose for that to be
yeah,
Sauron.
no, I don't think it's Sauron either. Because like, where would he come from? It would make
It
sense.
makes sense if it's a wizard too.
Well, I think it would make sense if it was one of the wizards because it would make sense how he arrived because the Valar basically would
Right.
send because like
They're like an
the
angel
five
coming
wizards,
from the heavens.
yeah, like they were like this. They're called like the Iluvatar or something, but they're like this order that's like in Valinor, and then the Valar send them to Middle Earth to help the kingdoms of elves and men and dwarves fight back against the dark forces. So it would make sense that they're like, all right, we got to yeet you over there in this meteor to help people out. So it would kind of make sense. I think he's got to be from Valinor, one way or the other. So I don't know. I think he's
Yeah.
definitely a wizard. But
Yeah. It's very interesting.
my vote is Blue Wizard 1.
All right, I'll go
So,
blue wizard too then. Yeah.
mhm.
Let's talk about Elrond. And
Ooh.
I really like this actor's portrayal. I
Mhm.
think I guess my overall besides Elrond, my biggest issue with this is just I want people to have longer hair. That's it. People are complaining that the
The elves?
Arondir is black. Y'all can shut up and fuck off. But if he is, I just want him to have long hair. I don't care what the texture or color of their skin is. Just give them long hair. Elrond, Arondir, a bunch of the other elves, Celebrimbor, who we'll talk about in a second. Just give them long hair. It's not really
Yeah.
that big of an issue, but it's just funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't mind it because I think they're kind of
I got
showing that,
used to it. It
like,
didn't really matter.
yeah, I guess, I don't know. By the end of, I think they're kind of trying to show that, like, maybe just a little bit of difference there, but it didn't bother
Oh
me
yeah.
as much as maybe at first. But because they do all have either the long hair or they have like very flowy like mullet kind of thing. So
Except for fucking Gladriel's brother, Finrod, he was rocking a fucking fade,
yeah,
dude.
hey, but Finrod's a badass motherfucker. Okay, Finrod can do what he wants. Them first
That
age
was
elves,
funny.
man, like that's like the casting for him was so good. Like I don't know, he just fit. Like I was like, yes, this guy would try to take on Morgoth like one on one, which they
Right, right.
all did at one point or another. So
Yeah. Interesting with Elrond though. I liked his little journey. Well, for one thing, we meet Celebrimbor, who I won't. Let's
mm.
not spoil in case people don't know how important he is, because there are probably people who don't know how important he is. He's a very big player. I would
Yep,
say. You already know he's a smith, and you already know what the show's about, so you can probably connect dots with that. And he's trying to create something very powerful, and yada yada yada. You can
mm,
connect the dots with that, but let's not spoil exactly the
yep,
rest of what could happen with him. But you can already see he's got a little bit of like a shady greediness to him, where he's like, I just want Feanor created the Cimmerils, and they're the best thing
right.
in the world. What have I done? I need to create something just as good, and not. And it's like, okay, Celebrimbor, you need to
Which
you
is
need to chill.
like very, it's very anti good guy kind of speak in Lord of the Rings, right? Like Lord of the Ring people are not very like the
Right,
good guys are never very ambitious, right? They're always like my only ambition is
right.
to like for example Boromir. He's very ambitious to save Gondor, but
Hmm.
that's what makes him try to kill Frodo. So like it's not
Yeah,
typical to see on the good guy side of like, ooh, yeah, like let's push the boundaries and like let's see what we can do. It's like I think the whole point is to kind of like get to where the bad guys are going and then just chill and like
right.
grow some
You can
trees
get
and
a sense that Celebrimbor he's not entirely the greatest person just by just listening to him. It's like, okay, there's a
yeah,
little bit of an edge to you that I'm not quite trustworthy of.
right. And the fact that the elves are kind of like, yeah, let's do this, like is kind of suspect to me because I feel like
Right.
it just seems very anti like. what got us here, because that's always how the bad guys would manipulate men and elves, and even in the first stage is like, hey, we can give you more power, more stuff
Yeah.
like that, and so that's usually doesn't end well. So I don't know. It usually doesn't end well, but it's like the prequel in Fellowship of the Ring. It's yeah, I got to
Right.
see. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
so. I'm keeping my eye out for like who's talking to Celebrimbor, who maybe put this idea in his head. Like I'm looking for
Right.
characters like that
I did
because
not know he was gonna be in this show, so when he popped up, I was like, "Oh shit. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Cool. Yeah."
yeah,
Yeah, so I did like Elrond's little journey to Khazad-dûm, which I think
hmm
I would imagine that might be the same door that the Fellowship goes to in Fellowship.
maybe, yeah.
That might be the same doorway, I think, which I thought was pretty cool, interesting.
Damn,
See it in the daylight.
he didn't know. All he had to do is just say friend instead
He just
of
needed to say
all he had to do is say friend instead of like, hey, I'm here to talk to Durin. It's like you didn't use the password, bro.
and you had to invoke the right of what is it? Sigyn
Yeah,
Tarad, whatever. The rock crushing
just
competition.
crush some rocks.
Which
Yeah.
I did think it was so interesting, Elrond as a character that he would go as far as calling a dwarf a brother. And then you see him in the
hmm
Lord of the Rings trilogy, and he's the biggest racist against everyone. He don't like anybody.
Right.
It's like, "What happened to you, you broken man?"
Yeah, that's gonna change at some point, right? But yeah, I mean
Right,
that was one of the coolest things about seeing Khazad Dûm was like, in the world of the Lord of the Rings, it's very much a fallen apart world. Like it's very like ancient. There's all these most everything is ruins, right? Like the most glorious city that's left is Minas Tirith. Even Osgiliath is mostly ruins. Like uh, Moria is all ruins, right? Like most
right.
everything is kind of fading and decayed and like kind of old. This in the second age, everything is at its peak. So like we got to see Linden. We're gonna
Yeah,
get to see Numenor in the next episode. We got to see Moria and Khazad-dûm, and it's like at its most powerful moment. Um, so that's what I've really enjoyed, those moments of like seeing them at the height of their level.
right. It's very similar to House of the Dragon in a sense that when you're at a peak, you can't go higher, so you can assume that a lot of this
hmm
shit's gonna go terribly, terribly wrong at some point because
Right.
that's how storytelling works.
I mean, right now it's like, damn, they're like, we haven't even seen an orc for like 100 years. Like, you mean you haven't seen an orc
Right.
anywhere? Like, there's definitely still orcs in the Middle Earth. Like, and they're like, yeah, we haven't
Yeah,
seen it for like 100 years. It's like, what? Like, y'all really don't have problems right now. Like, this is wild.
exactly. This is that they're sweet, sweet summer children, we could easily say.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I really like the Elrond and Durin's relationship. I love that he has a seedling from the plant from the great golden
hmm
tree, and he takes
hmm
care of it like a third child. That Disa, his wife, who I thought was great, I thought she was so good. His wife, she was
hmm
fantastic. Which, but you can clearly see that Durin loves Elrond, and yeah, Elrond kind of an asshole, not seeing him in 20 years. He's like,
Yeah,
"What are you talking about?" It's like I was here yesterday. It's like, "No, motherfucker, I had a whole life by the last time I
yeah.
saw you."
And he definitely would have sent an invite. And like, Eldron's trying to be this like, political player, like, and he would have skipped a wedding that would be important to know. I don't know. I feel like maybe they were just kind of trying to play with the idea that like to elves, time isn't valuable, but to all of us other
Uh,
mortal people, like time is much more precious because we don't have as much of it. So that was kind of an interesting thing to bring up. But it was a little like shitty of Elrond to be like, oh yeah, sorry, I missed your wedding. I was like, bro, like all this man wanted was you to come and party with him. Like, damn.
right, right. So, also, I would say, I guess the end of the door storyline, these 2 episodes, they got Mithril, right? Like, that's what's in that box?
I
Like, it's
don't think
gotta be
so because
Mithril, right?
Mithril's not like that precious because they can mine it. Like, I think most of those dwarves probably are outfitted in Mithril right now. I think it's like one of the Silmarils or something. Like, I don't know.
That was
Like,
my second guess. I thought it was either a Silmaril or Mithril just 'cause I know both of those are pretty precious materials, so I don't know.
yeah, it's got to be something sacred to the elves because I think they found it and they don't want the elves to know. And so, like, it's
Which
something that, like,
right.
he's like, why is this elf showing up when we just found this thing, this mystery thing? So it
Mhm.
could be one of the Silmarils. I don't know. I was thinking the
Yeah.
Arkenstone too, but that kind of is only in the Lonely Mountains, so I'm not really
Yeah, and
sure.
that we've seen the origin of that in The Hobbit, so
Right, right. Yeah, so I don't
But,
know.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but, I think it's, when it comes to the Silmarils, there's a bit of little tiny bit of a lore dump, which I thought was interesting. So, this is a slight spoiler, but this happened before the show began, so it didn't really matter. We were talking about Morgoth, and so
Mhm.
like how the whole thing of Morgoth basically stole the Silmarils,
Right.
um, and from Valinor, and I love how Celebrimbor talks about how Morgoth was so, like, infatuated by them that he just stared at them for, like, the first 3
Mhm.
days or whatever until a tear came out and he saw his reflection of evil, and that's when it was done. And that's
Yeah.
what kinda started the whole prologue. They didn't get into it, but, I'm pretty sure it's, Feanor started this whole, like, almost like a rebellion of trying to go get the Silmarils back.
Mhm.
And I didn't know this until I heard it on a separate, I think a YouTube video or something, I can't remember. Shout out to them though. That the reason that Galadriel and them aren't in Valinor, obviously they went to the war, was because they're banned from Valinor.
Oh.
Because apparently Feanor went on this quest to get them back. They were like, I don't care who we kill to get them back. We're gonna kill men, dwarves,
Mhm.
which elves were fine with, but it wasn't until he said, "We're gonna kill even our elves, our own
Yeah.
kind, to do this." And
Right.
apparently that was the big no-no that got them all banned from
Yeah.
Valinor.
The kinslaying.
And so it is a big deal that, at the end of the first episode that they get to go back, where Galadriel says, "Never mind, fuck it," and she jumps off a boat and swims in an ocean for about 3 days or something.
Oh my god. Yeah, what was her plan there? That's what I mean, I wanted to talk about that, but yeah, that event is called the kinslaying, and that's I think Elrond's father was killed in that, and that's so Elrond's Galadriel's like his like aunt or mother or something. She's related to Elrond, but I'm pretty sure Elrond's father was killed in the kinslaying.
Elrond also notably is half elf, which I think is they
Mhm.
kinda throw that line in there where they say, only elf lords only, to Elrond when you first introduce him, and I think that's
Mhm.
a dig at, like, "You're not purest of blood, loser."
Yeah. It doesn't seem to like hold him back much because like he's definitely still
No, he
around
doesn't. Yeah,
later. So
absolutely.
I don't know. He's definitely still around like 1,000 years from now.
I just thought that bit of a lore dump with you see the Feanor's hammer and everything was very
Yeah.
interesting.
And they didn't even get into like I think Ungoliant, which is like this giant spider. And she actually fights Morgoth for the Silmarils at one point. I don't know if she does something to the two trees. I think she destroys them or whatever. But
Mm,
she definitely like her and Morgoth fight directly at one point, and he has to like there's like Balrogs that fight this like giant spider. I think if they ever put that in live action, it'll be insane to see. Um,
right.
but yeah, that definitely was a thing. So yeah, I do appreciate that they're like fleshing that out, like, all like deep stuff of the first age.
Right, yeah, I mean, you kinda have to, I feel, at least I thought that prologue did a tremendous job of
Yeah,
piquing your
definitely.
curiosity as well. The
Yeah,
only last character that we're introduced, I think, at least that I can remember that we haven't talked about is Halbarad. What's his name? Halbrand.
Halbard, Halbard.
Um,
Yeah,
he's the guy who,
Halbrand,
is with
Halbrand.
Galadriel by the end. Halbrand.
Yeah, Halbrand.
Alright, so here's another maybe we'll time code this, I don't know, people, if in case you don't wanna know, know, because I don't know who Halbrand is, I don't think you know who Halbrand is, but we're gonna
I don't.
speculate for a quick second. Um, Clearly he's got a past, he's wearing a necklace that has some kind of legacy behind it.
Hmm.
Um, and they're going to what looks like at the end to Numenor, um,
Right.
which will play a big part. What
Yeah.
if I mean, he's not gonna I don't think Halbrand is gonna be like your Aragorn type, he's too roguish, clearly.
Hmm.
But what if there's a chance, because we're dealing with Sauron, that he's a ring wraith?
He could be. I mean, he definitely might be by the end of this. Like,
He could be one of those 9 men.
he could be eventually, yeah. Because I mean, like, I think that you got to keep your eye on all the powerful men right now because a lot of them are going to turn
Right.
into ring wraiths. Like anybody that's like keep your eye on the people in Numenor. Like when we meet them, they're all going to turn into ring wraiths. All right, like like
Right.
9 of
You
them
got
are.
you just gotta keep counting. He's like, "All right, 1, 2,
Yeah,
3." Get to 9, it's like, "All right, all right."
like who's the king here? Oh, you're definitely going to be a ring wraith.
You're definitely Ringwraith. Because like, that is one big mystery that we don't know is who's those 9 men were that Sauron, gave rings to.
Right.
So, I think that's where they can have a lot of fun playing with that in this
Yeah.
show as well.
And they say, yeah, they do always say, they were great kings of men. So I don't know. I hope they'd maybe do a
Right.
few, but I hope they don't do all of them because, like, that's kind of the fun of Tolkien is like you don't all like some of the stuff is just kind of shrouded in the mystery of history, right?
Mhm.
So like you kind of don't know everything. You don't know like that's
I would imagine by the end of this entire series, which they said they have a 50 episode series arc
oh
planned
okay,
out. That's what they have. 50
interesting.
episodes. I could see them getting through all of them in that entire season. Or
Maybe
series. I wouldn't imagine
yeah.
to get through that in this, but season I mean, because that would be
No,
dumb. But
yeah,
I can imagine by the end of it you at least have an idea of who
right.
those 9 men are.
It would be cool. I mean, the witch knowing who the Witch King is would be cool. I think
Which it could be Halbrand. It could be
it could be
Halbrand.
Halbrand, especially if he has some claim. It looks like he has a claim of like to like the southern lands, maybe Tar Haret or Tal Haret, wherever
Right.
where they're scouting right now. So, or maybe he's somewhere further south. But it sounds like he got wrecked by orcs, and that's the thing. Like they, like these elves are kind of patrolling the continent. It's like, well, war's over, boys. We can go home. And then this one guy, his whole kingdom was destroyed by orcs. It's like, how did y'all not see that? Like, it's
Right.
like, well, time to lace
Yeah.
him up. And Galadriel's like, wait, where are you from? He's like, oh, it's like, and y'all got destroyed by orcs. It's like, yeah. It's like, well, shit. Like, I've been looking. Look, I was in the north. I should have been looking south, I guess.
Right, right. Okay, real quick before we call it quits here, everyone. Let's do a quick. We're gonna say here's a big spoiler section for future stuff, slight book
Mm,
spoiler stuff that we'll talk about starting now. Check time codes. Um, Devin, don't spoil everything for me because I know you know a lot,
okay.
but I do know one spoiler or a couple. We discussed this about for a little bit.
Hmm.
Numenor is gonna sink at
Yeah.
some point,
Yeah.
and so is Linden.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Keep your eye on. I think I saw the next episode. So the queen is Muriel, and her advisor is named Farazan. Keep your eye on Farazan. Keep your eye on that guy.
Yeah,
And
we'll
anybody
keep an
and
eye on 'em.
anybody that's like advising them. Okay, because like Sauron, can be a fun game for anybody to play. But Sauron in this age he was in Sauron the Fair form. So he wasn't actually the big
Right,
like 8 feet tall person yet. He was like or he used to be
exactly.
that person, but he can like change form. So in the second age, for
Right.
most of it, he's in his form called Sauron the Fair. And he basically
Mhm.
just like I believe he's the one that kind of gave Celebrimbor that was the good idea to forge the rings. And he
I
also
think so too. Yeah.
he's very active in Numenor. So he will be a
Right.
character in Numenor at some point, and we might not see
Which
it coming.
I still don't think because there's a glimpse in that little teaser of this season at the end of the second episode where you see someone who very much like assuming could be Sauron in his fair form, but it's like I don't think so. I feel like that's more of like a weird emissary, maybe.
Yeah,
I think it's a
yeah,
red herring. I think it's too on the nose. Because if I saw that person walking around with like villain right now,
yeah.
kill that person.
It could be people. I mean, eventually some of the Numenorians split and they start worshiping Morgoth. So maybe it could be some of them. But that's not supposed to happen for another like couple hundred years or something. So I don't know. But they're
Right.
they're they're
So we'll
condensing the
see.
timeline, so it definitely could happen in this, now.
'Cause I would do think it's interesting, and you kinda see the pieces fitting together that this entire series arc that they're talking about could be like Sauron's big manipulation, of
Yeah.
the creation of the
I mean,
rings,
it
you
is.
know?
Yeah. I mean, that's what he does. He's the Seaver.
That's it. I think that
Yeah.
could be this whole story.
Well, because Aragorn, who's descended from, he's of the Dunedain, but they're basically refugees of the Numenorians once Numenor falls. They're like, they had made some kind of like Middle Earth outposts and stuff, but, he's descended from them. And then he calls him when he meets Frodo. He's like, then Sauron the Deceiver gave to us 9 rings. So,
Right.
so they know by that point that they were led astray by this guy Sauron. So, but right now though, they don't know who he is. But we can know. You can keep our eyes posted for anybody that looks a little shady.
Right.
So,
Which, yeah, I think that's gonna be the big mystery throughout this, so but I'm
mhm.
interested, again, how all of these, I'm interested to see how all these storylines tie together.
Yeah,
Because right now they're all very split up, and I kind of I like it, but I'm more interested in seeing when these characters meet and
yeah.
these storylines intertwine. Like when Arondir meets up with Galadriel, with like, "Hey, yo, there's fucked up shit happening over here in the
Hmm.
east. Y'all should check on this." So it'll be interesting to how these work out.
And Arondir's going to have some cool action sequences. He's going to like start, he's going to be, I think maybe copying some of that Legolas mold stuff of like, We already know he's going to
Right.
catch an arrow, throw it. But I'm excited to see him in action because it looks like he's going to be our
Yeah.
main. Like, oh, he's so
It
badass
also
kind of
looks like
guy.
he's in some weird orc like fighting pits, which I'm like, why
Yeah,
haven't the orcs just killed this elf? Why are they fucking
I don't
around
know.
with
They're
him?
going to
So
do
that'll be
something
interesting to
weird.
see why.
But yeah. One quick
Yeah.
thing though, like I really loved the symbolism. I loved the crescendo of the first episode where you learned what Fingon, because like at first, she's like, well, what am I supposed to do if I don't know which way to, the sun is or the light? And then you whisper something to
Mhm.
her, and then you find out what he whispered to her at the end of the episode. He's like, yeah, you just got to make a choice. You don't really know sometimes. And then she jumps off the
Right.
boat, and then like I think there was
Well,
maybe a
that
little
and
bit.
he says like you have to like something touch the darkness, you'll know something like
Mm-hmm.
that along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember exactly, but yeah.
But and then like when Halbrand, like when she tied herself to the mast and she was like swimming down, like he swam after. I feel
She
like
was
there was
gonna
like
drown.
symbolism there.
Yeah.
What if? Wait, I just thought about this though. What if like the Numenoians that found them? Because like, did you notice that the silhouette that finds them, the sun is like right where their head is? What if that's
Uh
Sauron? What if that's him? Because like
Ooh.
the eye,
The first person they made is Sauron? Oh,
that would be wild. Because like his head was right
yeah.
where the sun is, and that would be like the fireball. I don't know, but
Right?
maybe
That's
not.
true. Yeah.
That would be a kind of crazy thing to
What
think
we might
about.
if we do this again next week or every week, we might have to play a game of who we think is Sauron out
Yeah,
of
every week.
anyone we see.
Also, and like real quick, just I know you touched it briefly, but like Galadriel is in the fucking ocean and she just jumps out of the
For
boat
a long time.
without any life vest, okay? Without any flotation device. And then she just starts
No.
swimming. Like,
For a
listen,
long
I can't even swim straight in a lane. Like I keep on hitting the sides, right?
I get it. Elves are way more
But
powerful than
like
normal humans, but like she was swimming for a long
she was
time, dude.
exhausted by the time she got to that raft. It's like, bro, you were gonna
Right.
drown. Like, what the? I that was the only thing that lost me. I was like, she's gonna swim back to Middle Earth? Are you insane?
Yeah.
Like the Grey Havens is not like like that's not close. Okay.
They were yeah, that was a long ways away, like, fuck. Also, I do have to say that turn that woman makes when she pushes her off
Oh
the raft, when she made that turn on a dime, dude.
yeah,
She was like, "Oh, let's be careful," and then she finds out, she's like, "Bitch, get off! Get off this raft, you dirty
yeah,
heathen." I was like, "Damn, that was cold."
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. It looks like it's going to be played with more in this series of like kind of the race relations between elves, dwarves, men. Because like in the original
People
trilogy,
don't like elves, clearly.
but
Yeah.
it's only ever been like we just don't mix with you, right? It's never been like you oppress us, like we are, we're justified. Like there's
Right.
never been like a more nuanced view than like we just don't really like each other. Like it's like now there's like, oh, you subjugate us, and like we're taking our
Yeah.
land back. Like so there maybe they're looking to flirt with those kind of themes, but it's never been a big part. I mean, I don't know. It's like around in Tolkien's works, but I don't think it's like I don't think we'll get to like Witcher levels of like forced migrations and stuff like that. Like,
Right. Yeah, I don't yeah.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see where this all goes. I will just but before we go, I'm very excited. I'm
Yeah,
really into this show. I will say
yeah,
the difference cuz people are going to compare this with House of the Dragon. This show is way prettier than House of the Dragon, I will say. And there's some
yeah,
beautiful shots in House of the Dragon, but that world is also just dirtier and
yeah,
grimier.
yeah.
Like if I had to pick one of the two, I'd rather live in this
Oh,
one.
absolutely. I'd rather live in Middle Earth. Like, you kidding me? Like, that would be way, like, you'd be insane to pick Game of Thrones. You're going to get killed by like a stray rock.
You're going to die in 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. That guy, like, God, the Targaryen guy's just going to come cut your dick off and then, like, stab
Yeah,
you.
it's going
Like,
to be awful.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Also, shout out to the title sequence and Howard Shore coming back just to do the main title sequence. I love that
Oof.
they brought him back at least for that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think that's a practical? Because I know for that teaser, it was like all practical effects for like
Oh,
filling in the wood. Do you think that's like sound, like, vibration kind of stuff? It looks like, why wouldn't it
it
be?
looked like it.
Right.
I mean, I probably not, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, actually, no, it totally was, and it took forever to do. Yeah, because it definitely looks like they put sand grains on like a sound
Right.
system and just filmed it in a particular. But I don't know. It's beautiful though.
Maybe the one with the stake going through isn't, but maybe the other ones are, because all you'd have to do is play, like, don't those work by like just playing different frequencies and then it changes the sound
Right.
pattern? So I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
I
possible.
think they definitely could have done it practically. So I don't think they,
Yeah.
I don't know. But either way, it's a pretty cool opening shit, scene.
Yeah. And shout out to Bear McCreary, who is the actual full on composer of the
Mhm.
show. He's done a lot of good stuff. One
Yeah,
that I love specifically, he did the music for that new God of War game, and
yeah.
it's fucking amazing.
The
So
music the music has
good,
been a high
very
point
cool.
so far. Like, the music has accented
Yeah.
every single scene that's been in it. That's
Hmm.
one of the things that really makes you feel like you're back in Middle Earth is just like that, that score. So, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think they've done a really good job of immersing me back. I didn't think I'd be into it as much, but man, am I in. I'm happy with it.
We're gonna have a great couple months of fantasy, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And we can't be too surprised if they paint Sauron in a very positive light because the show is, funded by Lord Sauron himself, Jeff Bezos. So we shouldn't be too surprised if it's like by the end of it, it's like, you know what, Sauron's not a bad guy. Like those people shouldn't
Someone's
be
not
able to
really.
pick. Like they should just be happy working those warehouse jobs. Like, wait, what? Like
They should be happy getting minimum wage. Yeah, it's fine.
by episode 50, all the Numenorians are just like in warehouses, like sorting boxes, and it's like,
Right, they're
I just
doing
want to go to the
mail.
bathroom. I just need to take a break. And the orc like whips the whip, like, no, get back to work. Like, it's like, wait a minute, did
Your
we?
Lord Sauron demands it.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what happened here? What's going on? Like,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that wraps up about does it for this little iteration of
Hmm.
Fortress Finest, whatever. We'll still do the same intro. You can email us at thefortressof@gmail.com, fortress spelled FOUR. Feel free to do all of that jazz. Questions, recommendations, email them to us, fortress spelled FOUR. Also follow us on
Hmm.
Twitter and Instagram and the YouTube channel at the Fortress of. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma, tell your cat. Rate and review us, whatever you want. If you enjoyed this, let us know, and maybe we'll do it for more stuff in the future. But for right now, we're baby
Yeah,
steps
baby
with this one.
steps. And hopefully, one episode recap can go pretty smoothly. But
Right? Yeah, because this I would imagine they're not going to be all this long, listeners. But since it was a two episode
yeah, two
premiere, it ran a
episodes.
bit longer.
If we want like 20, 30 minutes per each one, hey, we're under time. We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly. Well, shout out, thanks, Brian for the art. Thank you, Alex for the music. Devin, thank you for being here. Being the Batman to my Superman because you're Batman. Sorry, I call dibs. I'm the Superman Gandalf that fell from the sky.
Dang it.
um, next week, I don't know what we're doing still. You'll find out. But
Yeah. Tune
if
in.
this is happening again, you'll know.
It's mystery.
You'll
What's in
know.
the box? What's in the shiny box of our next episode?
What's in the shiny
You'll
box?
have to find out.
All right, happy holidays, everyone. And I don't want to say the same catchphrases, so I'll say it for now. I'll think of another one. Well, maybe it'll come up. Maybe put a code on its code on, or just what's in the shiny box?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. All right, thanks, Devin. Thank you,
What's in the
everyone, and
box?
we'll see you next time.
All right.